Hello, everybody. We are gathered here for part 5 and last part for this crew of going through the bite model. Are we in a cult? God damn it, I really want to know. Everybody, we are gathered here for part 5. Shit. Okay. Now we're not going to have a stream inception, so that's good. We're going through the bite model to see if veganism or meat eating are cults. We went through behavior, information, thought. We are now on emotion, our favorite subject as vegans. Anything to say before we start?
It's worth saying that this is probably, as you said beforehand, going to be quite a difficult one to quantify because we are talking about qualitative things. We're talking about feelings. So this is going to be a challenge from the get-go.
Patrick?
I would say that the first two sections of the bite model was pretty, meat eating didn't do too well. The last one was a little bit more even, so interested to see how this one does.
Yeah, this is interesting. We are familiar with the feelings of both meat eaters and vegans. So we'll see. I don't know. We also, let's not forget, talking about emotion control. But before that, we have something to finish up from the last time. We weren't sure what map reality is, so I read up a little bit, and Stephen Hassan said nothing about it, lazy bugger. But other people were talking about they were in a specific group, like they were describing it that it was like wearing VR goggles, and that everything that they looked in reality was going through this mesh of gathered here for that allowed them to look at it differently, not as it is. So it's definitely talking about a false reality. So guys, vegan gays, does that change your answer?
Then I would say it doesn't apply at all. I can't remember if I said it like partially applied, but doesn't apply would be the answer.
Patrick?
Yeah, I don't think it changes my answer either.
Which was, just to remind us?
I said I said no, right? Does not apply last time. Or did I say no? Actually, I said partial. Let me find it. Need to get that up.
Yep. The last section of thought control. 11.
And I said does not apply.
Vegan gays, are you pushing back on that?
It's kind of a false reality to say like it both is and isn't okay to do something. Like, I don't know. But I guess nothing's false. It's just like obscured.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that it's hidden.
Yeah, it's more hidden and there's more gaslighting happening than, like just falsehood, really.
Yeah.
So I'd say it doesn't apply. I'll be nice.
What do you feel?
Patrick? I would say fully applies, but I'm also scared, so
No, we don't know. We can go for fully applies.
I'm again back to bullying Patrick. That's amazing. I think it's my newfound talent. Okay, let's begin with the task at hand, emotion. Manipulate and narrow the range of feelings. Some emotions and or needs are deemed as evil, wrong, or selfish.
I would see this as coming from some sort of higher power within a cult. And I don't know where the higher power is coming that is manipulating and narrowing the range of feelings. So I would say this doesn't apply at all.
I would say I would push back a little bit. I would say we do talk about selfishness a lot when it comes to the way of life of meat eaters, and we juxtapose ourselves against that.
Yeah, I guess. But are we manipulating and narrowing the range of feelings?
Patrick, you have something to add?
I would say I always hear the phrase you what is it, you cannot love animals and eat them, right? Is that what people say? So
Yeah.
so I feel like there's a sort of a lot of push towards everyone needs to love every single animal to be vegan, so that perhaps there's some sort of emotional thing going on there, because you don't it's just it's a low moral bar. There's vegan, you don't have to, you know, like every single animal to know that you don't need to exploit them. I don't know if you think this is interacting with that point, but for me it seems like this is sort of trying to do something to do with emotion.
Oh yeah, I see it now. Like it's weird because it's the needs, but it's what's throwing me off is what's seen as a need versus what actually is a need. People will say, I need the flesh of animals, but it's like, how is that demonstrated biologically?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to apply that because it's not actually a need in the first place. I mean, I guess I'd fall in the middle and just put partially applies, just in capture everything.
Yeah, I think so. I think there is a little bit of saying which emotions we are talking about, emotions being evil, wrong, or selfish. We are doing that as vegans quite often about meat eaters and about ex-vegans, whether they're ex-vegans or ex-vegans, it doesn't matter, does it? Yeah. Patrick, meat eating?
I would say this one partially applies because some emotions are deemed as wrong. For example, once when I was a kid, I saw my granddad killing a pig, and then my parents I asked them, you know, or actually maybe, no, I'll bring this example up for a later point, but in terms of emotions as wrong, I constantly see people say vegans are sort of denying reality. There was a clip of Andrew Tate, which I saw the other day, where he said, you know, vegans are, you know, people who start to extend rights to all sentient beings. They're wrong, or they're being manipulated by the Matrix or some higher order. But I don't know if this is a little bit more fringe, maybe. So maybe partially applies.
Yeah.
I don't know what you
I understood your first point, I think, and there's definitely some emotions or needs that are deemed evil, in case, or maybe wrong, right? It's wrong to care for animals as much as vegans do,
or
care about
people saying, you are, you know, being weakened by society to feel emotions to. And I hear people say, vegans, they humanize animals too much. This is like not normal emotions to have.
We're also being called selfish quite a lot, aren't we? We are being told constantly that we don't care about animals. We're doing this just for clout and shit.
Also, yeah, that's something else I've seen. So vegans, they just want attention, or...
Yeah, all right, let's move on.
So partially applies, right?
I think so, for both, yeah. So Mormonism, the President Spencer K. Kimball said, anger is a thought sin. President Kimball said that a man does not control his thoughts. It can easily lead to sinful action. So that's a literal thought control, right? People are supposed to reject their thoughts because slippery slope, it should lead to action. There we go. 2, teach emotion stopping techniques to block feelings of homesickness, anger, doubt.
Well, this one would imply like taking away from like a family or the home. Firstly, that would be the first kind of thing with it that's like doesn't apply. And the other thing is an emotion stopping technique. Like these aren't things that are taught. They aren't like protocol to like give to vegans in order to like do this. So I would say it doesn't apply unless you can think of something to push me back on.
Well, I can only think of myself. I do try to stay distant from emotions because I saw how, like, I felt how badly I look when I do get emotional. So I do try to be, to a point of detriment, almost emotionless. But that's a personal choice. I
Yeah,
think,
personal thing. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't think it applies either in case
No.
of veganism. Patrick, meat eating.
I said does not apply for this one, but yeah, I can think of situations where meat eaters do try and block doubt in people who start to question the narrative. So it's a little bit similar to the last point as well, where some emotions are deemed as wrong. So maybe I should put partially applies.
Well, let's get through it again. Sorry, teach emotion stopping techniques. Do meat eaters are meat eaters taught emotion stopping techniques? I think in some cases, yes, because children, in some cases, are raised watching animals being killed and then killing animals themselves. The question is in our society, does that considered to be fringe at this point, or?
I think that would be fringe, I would say.
Yeah. Well, then it doesn't apply.
We don't do the fringe here.
No, but with regards to the last word, doubt, there's
Doubt.
many people who sort of, push it or push away the doubt inside meat eaters when, for example, a kid might have, ask, is this normal? And then other meat eaters will say, this is the circle of life or the food chain.
Yeah, but the last time we talked about these thought-stopping cliches, we came to the conclusion that it's not coming like specifically from like group leaders or whatever.
No.
So
Okay.
it's just a human nature to have thought-stopping cliches sometimes. I don't know if it's fuck. I'm getting confused because feelings are hard. So.
But it does not apply for both for this one.
Yeah, it does not apply.
So, in case of Scientology, the TRs, we talked about them before, those are training routines. It's basically an auditor or a trainer and a bricklayer, which is like a person who just started climbing the stupid bridge. They sit in a room and basically they're going through routines. For instance, confronting is a routine. In the first exercise, a student and a coach face each other with eyes open. The routine ends when the student can confront the coach for at least 2 hours without movement, excessive blinking, or loss of attention. The second exercise is the same, except that the coach tried to distract the student from both verbally and physically, pushing, shoving, saying horrendous shit to those people. Some of those people are kids. Trying to invoke emotions and failing them if they actually react emotionally. This is what's happening in Scientology. 3, make the person feel that problems are always their own fault, never the leaders or the group's fault.
This one can't apply because it's like it can't apply for the leader's reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the group's fault. I struggle to think of an example of like a narcissistic way that it's never like veganism is never to blame. I think we are more defensive because we are blamed for everything, and we have to have an answer to everything.
Yeah.
But I couldn't think of an example. Like people, I'm thinking of an example that someone would say. They'd say, "Oh, the like veganism just didn't work for you," and then like constantly being like, "Well, where would the blood work? Where was the the dietitian?" Stuff like that. Like we do ask those questions, but I think they're valid questions to ask when you're talking about like your diet or something like that. Like blood work is good rather than just like going off feelings that could have had something to do with environmental factors or other stuff going on at the time. So I thought it didn't apply.
Oh, those damn feelings. All right, Patrick. Yeah, I agree. Patrick, meat eating or?
Does not apply.
All
Couldn't
right.
think of anything.
Awesome. So Scientology again, my favorite subject. So literally everything that a person does in Scientology is their fault. There is a concept it's called PTS, potential trouble source. And that is something, if something happens to a person, if they get into an accident or get the sniffles even, well, the Scientology routines are starting to run through who are the people in their lives. And basically, like who could potentially be a trouble source for them, and therefore they get sick. And one of the other things is a question that lingers always in Scientologists' minds. What did you do to pull it in? What did you do to make yourself get in an accident? And that could be something in past lives that you did. You were a bad person in past lives, and therefore if it happened, whatever happened to you in this life happened to you in the last life. Then you pulled it in. You made it happen to yourself, whichever bad thing. We talked about Danny Masterson and his victims. That's how his victims were silenced in the cult of Scientology. What did you do to get raped? Was the question. Promote feelings of guilt and unworthiness, such as identity guilt.
This one was a tricky one for me because I was kind of like confused by identity guilt, but I'm guessing maybe not feeling vegan enough was like a pressure, but which I would say is a fringe thing. So
Yeah.
I would say it doesn't apply.
Yeah, the definition of veganism literally has stipulation in it. It's
Yeah.
possible and practicable. Yeah.
So there's constant fights about that. So.
It just means we're not in a cult, Elle. It's fine.
Yeah. Shame, really, isn't
Let's start a cult.
it? Yeah.
Patrick, you're gonna be a beautiful cult leader. Applies to meat eating or?
I cannot see it applying for this one.
Yeah, there is identity pride, not identity guilt. The meat eater is a proud thing.
Yeah.
I agree. So the example that I have is from Mormonism. You can't be gay in Mormonism. Well, you can, but you can't act gay or date other gays, or of course not marry gays and so forth. So you can be gay as long as you are completely not gay, or even marrying the person from an opposite sex just to mitigate your bloody gayness. So basically, you can't be fucking gay.
Boring.
I know, holy shit. It's changing, by the way. I think Mormonism is kind of the new pipeline to gayness. Seriously, so many Mormon people come out as gay. It's unbelievable.
Putting the pipe in pipeline.
Yeah. Promote feelings of guilt and unworthiness, such as you're not living up to your potential.
Certainly feel that way as an advocate, like that I'm not living up to the potential of being an advocate, but I don't think that pressure is applied on me externally. I think that's fully coming from the internal. So I don't think I've ever had any pressure externally well, I have from a couple of people being like, you should just like live and breathe this like advocacy, but
Yeah,
it's a very fringe.
That's fringe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say it doesn't apply.
Patrick.
Yeah, I would agree that there's a few fringe cases of, maybe vegans telling other vegans you're not doing enough activism or you need to do more for the movement, but it's all fringe. So, and then I cannot think of anything for, you're not living up to your potential for meat eaters.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything either. This one was completely not applicable to our case, I think. And it was incredibly hard to find an example for. So, but of course, I went to Scientology. The Bridge to Total Freedom. Whoever follows the site, I will link it later. You can actually look at the bridge. It's extensive. So literally your entire Scientology life, career, however you define it, is not living up to your potential, because you have to climb the bloody bridge to reach your potential, right? So, and you're never there, because there are 15 levels to the bridge, but only 8 of them exist in life. So you can never, ever reach your potential. But what is the potential? So OT is a being who is knowing and willing, cause over life, thought, matter, energy, space, and time. OT is basically a magical being that can move things with their mind and externalize, meaning leave the body and walk about as a spirit. Crazy shit. It's crazy cult. All right. Promote feelings of guilt and unworthiness, such as your family is deficient.
Perhaps deficient in vegan content, but not like actually deficient. I don't even know what that would entail, really. I would say, given my understanding, it doesn't apply.
Patrick?
Does not apply as well. Nothing really to add.
Unless the family's vegan, then they're obviously deficient.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there is actually interaction with the family as a part of being a part of any kind of a group. Is there? Yeah, maybe in fringe cases, I guess.
Yeah, in fringe cases, yeah.
So the Mormon Church is, we continue with the gayness in Mormonism. The Mormon Church is to exclude children from same-sex couples from getting blessed and baptized until they are 18 years old. So this was a decision in the Mormon Church. It's since been revoked because the amount of people that left the church for this thing is insurmountable. So they were like, what the fuck did we do? And reversed this. So basically, if you have gay parents, you can't be Mormon until you are 18, and you denounce your parents. Only then can you be baptized and join the cult of Mormonism, which is fucking heartbreaking. But it woke many people up, and they just walked away. The gay pipeline, I'm telling you. Promote feelings of guilt and unworthiness, such as your past is suspect. Elle?
No, I think there's a general consensus that, like, if you go vegan tomorrow, it doesn't really matter whether or not you were yesterday. So I would actually say it's quite the opposite. Like, it's not even considered, it doesn't apply. We're just excited to have you.
I agree. Patrick?
Again, doesn't apply.
So your past as a vegan, going back to meat eating, is not suspect?
It's definitely, I think, seen as suspect if you do that. But if you come back again, it will be...
Yeah. You embraced, yeah.
Wait, what was that? I didn't really get that point.
If you were born a meat eater and then went plant-based, vegan or whatever, it doesn't matter for this case, and then go back to being a meat eater, is your past not suspect? Your past as a vegan.
Suspect to meat eaters, or?
Does the group of meat eating promote feelings of guilt or unworthiness about your past?
To someone who went vegan then came back?
Yeah.
No.
I
would say not at all, yeah.
I'm just trolling. I'm going to stop. We don't have much time. But our favorite cult, new favorite cult, carnivorism, carnivore dieting. There is a lot of lore about the past pre-carnivorism. They lied to you. They say carbs are the problem. They caused all of your issues. Most of them are like veganism caused all of your health issues. So there's a lot of emphasis on your dietary past being suspect. Am I right, Patrick?
Yeah, I was going.
Thank you.
I also wanted to add that for those listening, we did a reaction video to someone formerly known as Carnivore Camaraderie, and in his ex-carnivore statement, he called the carnivore community a cult.
So I think we're warranted. It's an ex-cult member. who still advocates for that diet, but okay, doesn't matter. Promote feelings of guilt and unworthiness, such as your affiliations are unwise. Vegan guys.
So affiliations is in connections to like bigger organizations or groups. I would say it doesn't apply because I think that generally vegans like it when there's someone representing veganism in another group. Like if someone's like a Christian and then they're vegan, it's like, oh, good, you are somebody who can like talk to Christians about it. So I that sprung to mind and made me think that it didn't apply.
I thought affiliations just meant like friends, whoever you hang out with.
Oh, I see. I was thinking the more like definitional way. So yeah, no, I don't think that it scrutinizes friendships or anything like that. No, like
I mean, by some people, but I would call that fringe.
fringe again, yeah.
Patrick, meat eating. Are your affiliations with vegans unwise? No. All right, let's just move on. Damn, Patrick of many words today. Scientology, as I said, potential trouble source, PTS. It's literally this. If you have something bad happening to you, you have to go through the people who you are with, who are next to you, and find out who is affecting, who is a bad egg that is affecting your well-being. Yeah, not much to say about that. Your thoughts, your feelings, your actions are irrelevant or selfish. Does our group promote feelings of guilt and unworthiness in that way, Elle?
I was imagining it meant the thoughts and the feelings of the potential cult member.
Yeah.
And no, I think there's a lot of space for the feelings actually, because there's a lot of feelings involved when it comes to the travesties that are occurring. So I would say it doesn't apply. I think they are considered relevant and we do have space to talk about our feelings. It's just when people start arguing about like the empirical stuff and like then it becomes a bit of a bloodbath. But the feelings, I haven't felt too scared to share my feelings in that sense.
Yeah, same.
What did you mean when you meant when it empirical becomes a bloodbath?
Like seed oils or not even just empirical, but like I'm struggling to find the word, like, you know, like feeding flesh to dogs, for example, that kind of thing, like that becomes a fight. But talking about, I feel horrible about like the fact I had you know, the classic dream about eating a chicken nugget or something. You know, I wouldn't say that's when it's like it's irrelevant or selfish. I think there's space to talk about feelings, but when it's not feelings, it's about like what people ought to do.
Yeah, and vice versa. If I had a dream about eating whatever chicken and I feel fine about it because I know my brain sometimes does farts, but I'm still vegan, so it doesn't matter. I can share that thought, and none of you is gonna think worse of me, are you?
No, obviously,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Is this something which happens a lot? People have dreams about eating.
No, I've had a couple, but it's been 10 years. So.
Yeah.
And for this one, I would say partially applies because just sort of the example I gave earlier when I saw my granddad killing a pig, and then I was in the car with my parents and I asked them, you know, why does this happen? And they sort of, made me feel unworthy by saying this is the way things need to be, or.
Okay, so your feelings about animals as a child and maybe even as an adult are being.
So
Okay.
I feel kids who see some slaughter, their feelings will get pushed away by meat eaters. This is my sort of feeling.
Do you agree, Elle?
I think so.
Okay, then let's move on.
So partially applies.
Partially.
Yeah, all right. So Scientology again. Oh, damn! I didn't know it was
Um,
so many in a row, but that's okay. Another saying in Scientology, especially in the Sea Org, is no case on post. What this means, your case is your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your life outside of Scientology, your I don't know, interrelations they call it as well, like all your inner world shouldn't accompany you to your work. And when you are in Sea Org, you work for 110 hours a week. So when exactly are you supposed to have time for your case? Not sure. Promote feelings of guilt awareness such as social guilt. I edited, it was unclear. I got stuck on it. So I searched what the fuck does that mean? So guilt coming from within the social structure of the group, peer pressure, pressure to act a certain way, etc. That's what it's meant by it.
see, I thought it was like guilt about who you socialize with. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then you're gonna have to rethink about.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a pressure to act a certain way. It's to act vegan. Like,
Okay.
not go to aquariums, not go to, like, be mindful about what you're purchasing, whether or not they're a who or they've been tested on an animal. Or there are fringe things that are also a further pressure, but I think a general pressure would be, to actually be that thing and act that way.
Yeah, I would say it fully applies. Would
Yeah.
you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Patrick?
Apart from fringe cases such as, if someone came with dog flesh, so maybe partially applies. I don't know. What do you two think?
I need to think about it some more. Elle, do you have a?
I would say I would agree with Patrick, like, because if it were dog flesh, there would be pressure to act a certain way, i.e., like not eat that.
Yeah. Well,
In a given society.
Yeah, Patrick, when you went with your friends to Vietnam, and was there a peer pressure to go eat a dog or to not go eat a dog or whatever?
Well, I was with a Vietnamese family, and they started bringing up culture, how it's an important part of they ate dog during the war. So was there a pressure to act in a certain way? I would say for the Vietnamese family, maybe, but with my friends, I'm not too sure.
Well, I'll leave it up to you because I'm not too sure as well. So you say partially applies? Vegan gays? Yeah.
Yeah, I think partially applies.
And
Right.
I'd like to add something. So on the first point, which was manipulate and narrow the range of feelings, some emotions and or needs are deemed as evil, wrong, or selfish. I didn't actually add that. There'll also be fringe cases where, for example, if someone had an emotion where they wanted to eat dog flesh inside of the Western society, that would be deemed as wrong, right?
Yeah. Does that change your answer? Or
Well, I wrote partially applies, so I reckon I can still keep it as partially applies, but it's just an extra point which came to my head.
Yeah, I think so as well. That's good. Let me come back to it. Sorry. Okay, social guilt. The vow of celibacy, something that happens in almost all biggest religions. Not only the big ones, I think Buddhism also has the vow of celibacy. So in case of, yes?
I'd like to add that in my chat, there are a few people made a point with regards to guilt, and they said, Bianca wrote, meat eaters guilt vegans to make exceptions, or telling that feeding kids vegan would be child abuse. So I think that's a pretty good point.
Well, does that change your answer to fully apply?
I don't know. Have you felt that there's a sufficient sort of drive to tell people that feeding? Yeah, because I even have my mum's friends were saying, "Oh, feeding a child of an animal-free diet is child abuse," but I don't know if it's fringe. Have you seen this a lot?
I don't know. I don't have much experience with that at all.
I'd
So
say it's fringe because anti-veganism is fringe. Like, it's
yeah,
not really, but like predominant anti-veganism, even though it's in the media, all these like articles about it, I'd still not quite classify it as like changing the answer.
yeah, and I would say parents of kids have pressure. Doesn't matter what they feed the kids; they have pressure to feed them something else. It's like coming from moms, dads, and whoever else, the society at large, just to, yeah.
Okay, we'll keep it as it was then.
Yeah. So again, the vow of celibacy. So specifically in a lot of ex-Mormons expressed the opinion that this shit is evil because throughout growing up, you're supposed to not even help yourself, but definitely not help yourself with a friend until you're getting married, and there is lots of guilt and shame around. I don't know, fooling around with your boyfriend or girlfriend of opposite sexes, of course, because gay is not allowed in Mormonism. And then when you get married, usually in Mormonism, incredibly young, when women are somewhere between 18 or 22, and men are somewhere between 20 and 24 because they went to mission, then all of a sudden they're supposed to turn this guilt off and perform like amazingly when they don't even know what to do in a lot of cases. So incredibly fucked up, this celibacy thing. Right, historical guilt. I added another caveat here. Guilt coming from the group's past or personal historical guilt. The group remembering scenes of the wrongdoings of the members. And those supposed to be okay. Yeah.
No, it's like I referred to earlier. Like, we don't care typically, like whether or not you were vegan beforehand. It's just whether or not you're vegan now. So I would say for this reason, it doesn't apply.
Patrick?
Apart from fringe cases, yeah, I cannot see it even partially applying because the fringe cases
I'm
are
gonna
so.
push back a little bit, Patrick.
Okay.
The whole we've been eating meat for thousands, millions, or however many years, saying is a little bit of a. Would you not say that it applies? I mean, it's something that all people think that because we historically ate meat, that we therefore should continue.
So the point is to do with guilt, right?
Oh yeah.
So is this promoting feelings of guilt? I cannot see.
Yeah. You're right. Okay, that's fine. I was trying there. Okay. So Orthodox Judaism or ultra-Orthodox Judaism, but it's an incredibly fringe group at this point who does this specific ritual. But the ritual of Kippur is something that all religious Jews do, and it's basically atonement for the sins for the past year. So yeah, I think it applies for a personal history of people. They have to remember their sins to atone for them once a year. Instill fear such as fear of thinking independently, vegan gays.
No, I think there are a lot of independent thinkers in our group. I think that's why that leads to so much discourse, we'll call it. Yeah, unless you want to push back, I would say it doesn't because I'm thinking everyone does groupthink when they're in a group.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking there's any extra groupthink. So I'm thinking.
So does the group instill fear of
No.
independent thinking?
No, like apart from being like you're an animal abuser if they disagree with you. Yeah, I don't think that you could classify fear. There's no like punishment or the other themes that we were talking about beforehand with other things that were happening. So I would say no, it doesn't apply.
Okay, Patrick.
No, not too much. No,
Okay.
unless you two will
No,
push back.
still in fear. Just in fringe cases where, as you said, about talking about children and shit like that. Or you're gonna die without meat. You can't exist. So, but on the whole, that's fringe. You're gonna die without meat. Yeah. Instill fear, thinking independently. So in Mormonism, again, damn, I really grouped this shit. So in Mormonism, there's such a thing once a year, or however many times, I'm not sure actually, a general conference where the quorum of the 12 and the quorum of the 70, all the top echelons are gathered, and they are basically gathering some members as well, about a few tens of thousands, you can see here. And there is a kind of like a pretending of democracy there, because a person goes on stage and says, well, do you sustain that this guy, this white guy, is going to continue being your president? And everybody says, picks their hand up and says, yes. And when I say everybody, it's fucking everybody. So this guy, this is incredibly fringe that this guy did it. He filled himself actually saying no and to ex-members. That was incredibly commendable and incredibly scary. So I think that
Wow.
applies. Instill fear such as fear of the outside world. Oh,
I think there is some fear instilled because we learn about the horrible things that happen, and I think that makes the world a lot scarier. So I would actually say this partially applies. I don't think it's like it's meant to, but
do you not think we confront that fear instead of instilling it?
in what sense?
Well, yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying. You're saying some of the members of veganism. Sorry, can you say a few more words about it?
It makes the world scarier knowing the things that happen to animals, and part of the group is becoming knowledgeable about what happens to animals. So it does, in a sense, instill some fear about the world, knowing, okay, trillions of animals being killed and in such brutal, horrific ways. It makes the world scarier, I would say. So I'd say it like partially applies. I don't think it is a consequence of it, but I don't think it's a purposeful, you should be scared of the outside world because it does this.
Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, I would agree. I think partially applies for veganism is a good one, because I don't think there's a specific sort of narrative that you should be scared of what's going outside of veganism, but more just getting exposed to the content of what goes on in the world could sort of create some fear, as Elle is saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And meat eating?
Not really.
Yes.
It's quite, meat eating's not looking really too much like a cult today.
That's good. We gotta crank it up, guys. I'm talking to myself mostly. I'm gonna shorten my explanations. So freeloaders bill is something that is promised to a person who is about to leave the Sea Org. They all know it, and that if they leave the Sea Org, they're gonna be presented by Scientology with a bill, sometimes in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So just for all the Scientology that the cult taught them while they were working there. So incredibly fun. Instill fear such as fear of enemies, Elle.
I'd be torn to say it partially applies for the same reason as the one beforehand. Or I would say it doesn't apply at all, because I think the general consensus is seeing them as people doing their jobs and not scary people, but maybe wrong people, but not scary people.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think we're saying that it would be fringe to say that some vegans say that the meat eaters or the farmers are enemies. we just say they're wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah. Patrick?
Yeah, I think if anything, I encourage vegans to reach out to meat eaters because this is how I think it will create a change to help people understand because vegans are a very small minority. So if anything, I encourage reaching out. So the opposite of fear. And then for meat eaters, again, nothing today.
Okay, cool. Christianity altogether, there is such a concept that is called the armor of God. I don't know if it's Christianity or some kind of a denomination. I'm not sure about that. But the armor of God is something that you mentally put on. It's something that's described in the Bible or whatever, but you mentally to put it on to steer the Satan's words and Satan's actions out of your so you don't not influenced by it. And what is satanic actions and words? Well, it's anything or anybody who's not Christian. So it's basically does create like everybody who's not Christian around me are the enemy. I think that's okay. And still fear such as fear of losing one's salvation, vegan gays, vegan hell, vegan
No, like I would say it doesn't apply because we're not being protected from anything in the first place. So we're not like in salvation in the first place. And it's got quite religious connotations as well. I just say it wouldn't apply.
Patrick?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it doesn't
Let's just
apply.
move on. There's nothing to say. It doesn't apply.
Unfortunately.
So born again Christianity is a thing. It's somebody who either was never Christian and came into Christianity, or someone who all of a sudden became much more devout. And it's because Jesus said a thing. But basically, born again Christians are much more devout than Christians who were like born into it and kind of go through their life being Christian. To just hold on to their salvation much more than the other guys. But maybe I copped out a little bit with that one. But that's okay. You still fear living or being shunned by the group?
I think it partially applies. Like I do think there's definitely like shunning because we see people who do that as like we're confused as to like they would have an understanding of what happens and then they turn their back on it. There is some shunning, but then you see a lot of support. Thinking of Alex O'Connor, lots of support, and then a lot of as well of like confusion, anger, shunning. So yeah, I would say that partially applies.
I would absolutely agree. That's an amazing answer. Patrick? Does it apply to meeting? Meeting is afraid
Does
to
shunned
be shunned.
mean sort of looked down upon, or?
No, I mean excluded from the group. Or excluded by your closest people or whatever. The shunning means just disassociation.
I would say, well, I see it happening, but I don't know if the group is actually installing fear in their members. But
yeah,
so I'm not.
I would say
sure.
no. I would say it doesn't apply.
I'd say no.
Yeah, it's an easy one. I'm sorry. I am trying to make it go faster. I apologize, Patrick. I'm gonna cut you off once more. So Orthodox Judaism. Sometimes when gay family members leave or come out, they are being shunned. And one of the most horrific things that a Orthodox Jewish family can do for someone who's gay is sit Shiva. Shiva is a 7-day wake for a date person. So doing that for a living person who just came out as gay is incredibly hurtful. They're killing the person in their mind. That's terrible. So I can imagine that the gay people in Orthodox Judaism are incredibly scared to come out and live and do all the stuff. So instill fear such as fear of others' disapproval. Vegan gays.
I don't think it's prevalent enough in order to even partially apply. Otherwise, why would people just be fighting all the time? It's like we don't actually care about others' disapproval. So I would say it doesn't apply.
Yeah, there are lots of things. We are likely to be black and white thinkers, but we are also likely to be independent thinkers.
Independent thinkers, yeah.
Holy shit. Patrick.
This is a tough one. I'll say maybe partially applies.
Are they afraid though? I know there's some disapproval will come if you become vegan, but a meat eater is afraid of yeah, I think you're right. I think they are afraid of disapproval. There is a comportment to tradition and all that shit. Ooh. What do you think, vegan gays, about meat eating?
I think there's not enough fear being instilled for it to be something that's applicable. Like, where's the fear?
In stopping eating, being a meat eater as an identity, I think there's a lot of it.
I mean, I am talking as someone who was like, there was heavy disapproval when I went vegan.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think there's a fear coming from the potential cult. I mean, there's fear mongering.
What examples of fear mongering do you have?
No, like saying you're going to die if you do this.
But we're talking about an individual. I felt it was very scary to me to stop eating animal products and just jump into veganism. And I was mostly thinking about, what would others think?
Yeah, I did have that as well, but I just don't know if it's widespread enough.
Maybe it's just coming from you, your own mentality, rather than the actual group, because there is definitely disapproval coming, but I don't know if there's instill fear, such as fear. So I don't know.
So you would say not applies?
I'd say it doesn't apply, really. I'd say it doesn't apply with both.
I'll need to see an example, I think, just to know what sort of example you have prepared, and then
let's do it. But I don't think this one will help you, because I went all biblical and shit. Because justice according to the Bible is Jesus. God was loved blood so much. He killed people, or ordered other people to kill people in case of the flood, the Amalekites, the Sodom and Gomorrah, the 10 plagues of Egypt, Canaanites, Midianites, and the list just goes on throughout the Old Testament. So if you are growing up as a Christian or as a Jew or even as a Muslim, and you hear all the shit that God does to people for not conforming, holy shit, does it not make you scared of not conforming? That's my example. Again, might be a cop-out, but does that change your mind, Patrick?
Well, I guess, the example didn't really help too much, but in terms of instilling fear, I guess just the whole group mentality does create some sort of fear. But I don't know whether it's not really a conscious part going on. It's not really a property of the organization where they're like, we're trying to instill fear in other people, so that they fear others' disapproval. But the meat eating, just the whole group mentality, it sort of creates a fear of others' disapproval.
Bianca gave us an example. My family would disinherit me if I'd go vegan, said the one speaker at the Oxford debate. But is that a fringe thought? I think it's not. I think it partially applies, but I'm not going to fight you on it, Patrick.
No, I agree with partially applies, because I know, I have family or I know people who when they find out, they're like, are you normal, or or
yeah, okay, so, are we happy?
So I don't.
Yeah, I'm happy.
I don't think there's some sort of organized thing going on inside meat eaters where like we have to instill fear in our members so they fear other people's disapproval. But
It doesn't have to be organized. I mean, the
a side
fear
effect.
of being a dissident in Christianity, I don't think it's organized. I think it's just generational, basically, and biblical. So I don't
yeah,
know.
so then I'll definitely go for partially applies.
All right. This is instill fear, such as fear of historical guilt. So if members are afraid of the historical guilt, that's what it's meant by it. It's a little weird. Elle, have you made any sense of this?
Didn't we?
We did
Did
this
we
one.
do this? We did this one.
No, so we did. Hold on, I'm gonna.
Oh, promote
run back.
feelings of guilt or unworthiness, such as historical guilt.
This one is different. This is instill fear of the historical guilt.
Oh, that's weird. I don't see that on the bite model.
I don't have that as well in my Excel spreadsheet.
Did I do a fufu? I might have done a fufu.
Yeah, it's not on the bite model. It stops others' disapproval.
Oh, I know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did contact the byte model. It's their fufu, and I didn't fix it. I did tell them that there is a mistake there, but I pasted it anyway, and even
Okay.
gave an example to it. But I'm gonna delete it later, so it's fine. The example, by the way, was a church history of Mormonism and their polygamy shit. It's horrible. Extremes of emotional highs and lows. Love bombing and praise one moment and then declaring you are a horrible sinner.
No, I think there's a lot of like praise when you become vegan and you join the movement. But there isn't suddenly this like turnaround of you are this horrible sinner if you're still like part of the group or anything like that. So I would say it doesn't apply.
I mean, for 2 years, I haven't even met that many vegans or told them. I mean, the only vegans I told, they were like nonchalant. Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
You're vegan now. That's cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Patrick, meat eating. Does it apply?
Again, I don't have too much to say here. I don't think it applies. Yeah.
Right. Love bombing. So, Dr. Stephen Hassan actually claims that the cult doesn't have to have many members and leaders and shit. It could be just 2 people. So a destructive cult could be a relationship with a narcissist. And narcissists are known for love bombing and then immediately instilling, like, turning the other cheek and slapping, blah, blah, blah. You understood what I've said.
Yeah.
Ritualistic and sometimes public confessions of sins.
So the sins would be, eating animals or, doing something non-vegan. Nothing, though, springs to mind as a whole of the group as ritualistic or public confessions. So I would say it doesn't apply.
Yeah. When that happens, sometimes very rarely in vegan groups, I think it's cringe. And I
Yes, so cringe.
Gross. Patrick.
No, again, I cannot think of, apart from fringe cases.
Yeah. All right. So I want to preface this. Neither me nor Stephen Hassan are sure about Alcoholic Anonymous being a destructive cult. They're definitely a cult, but we're not sure if the good that comes out of that cult is overwhelmed by the bad shit that happens there. That definitely have some destructive cult things going on, like the body system and stuff like that. So the 12-step program, basically, like the format itself of sitting around and talking about what you did when you were an alcoholic or a narcotic abuser and stuff like that. So it definitely applies there. Okay. Phobia indoctrination in cult. What was it? Inculcating irrational fear about leaving the group or questioning the leader's authority. So, A, no happiness or fulfillment possible outside the group.
No, I'd say this doesn't apply. I think, like, for the most part, vegans just live alongside meat eaters, and they are outside of the group living it anyway. So I would say no.
I would say I would go even much, much further. I think ignorance is bliss. And I
Yeah.
think I was happier when I was a meat eater.
Yeah.
Patrick. I mean, happier, like,
Not
as
knowing. Yeah.
being, yeah, just binging on whatever I want,
Hmm.
doing whatever I want. Patrick.
So maybe partially applies for this one with all the, the comments such as bacon though, or
Yeah. No, you'll miss out.
yeah, or
Yeah.
like how will you have a Christmas dinner if you're a vegan, or how are you gonna do?
I would go with fully applied, actually. I think meat eaters can't fucking fathom being vegans. I couldn't.
So
What, am I bullying you again? Speak up.
vegan gays gets the final vote.
All right.
So,
It partially applies.
what's stopping you?
Wait. Maybe I've been bullied.
I'm the one. Yeah.
I actually, I don't know if it's like a main thought of like, I can't live without this and I would not be happy without this. I would actually say fully applies.
Are you accepting this, Patrick?
Because loads of people don't change because they think that.
Yeah, and there's also
I didn't for 2 fucking years. I knew I have to be vegan, but I didn't do it.
Mhm.
I was scared. How the fuck am I going to live without meat?
Well, meat
Who
eaters
is not?
constantly also say things such as, "Oh, you can make an exception today. Just have some fun. Relax, chill out."
Yeah. Do you have cheat days? If you go vegan, you live miserable lives. Right.
One
Right.
exception won't hurt anyone. Just have some fun. Yeah, I think, yeah, you've sort of led me towards fully applies.
Bullied.
You are going to be a member in my cult, Patrick. I can feel it.
Someone wrote earlier on, I'm a bit sad that veganism isn't a cult. Yeah.
Maybe it's young days still. We haven't gotten to the end yet. So yeah, in the Sea Org of Scientology, if you leave the Sea Org, you'll be flipping burgers for the rest of your life, is the thing that you usually say to discourage Sea Org members from fucking stopping working for 110 hours a week and start working for 40 hours a week and for actual pay. Not that as vegan, I think flipping burgers is a good idea, but maybe flipping vegan burgers. It's a fucking amazing job when it's compared to being in a bloody cult. Yeah. Terrible consequences if you leave. Hell, demon possession, incurable diseases, accidents, suicide, insanity, 10,000 reincarnations, whatever the fuck that means. Elle, what is so bad about 10,000 reincarnations? And like veganism.
Terrible. I mean, yeah, we do focus on the terrible consequences to animals if someone leaves that, but I think for this specific example, it doesn't apply because there's nothing like that that's going to happen to you if you leave.
Yeah. Patrick?
Apart from maybe some people who say you're going to get heart disease and, or make some hyperbolic statements I'm talking about the vegan side, but they're just fringe cases. But so it doesn't apply for veganism, and I cannot, for meat eaters again, I cannot see it applying. I didn't get anyone telling me. There are maybe some cases of people saying, you're possessed or you're not thinking rationally.
Yeah, some people claim that vegans are so depressed, right, and all that stuff. But it sounds fringe.
It's very
and
fringe, for the meat eating side.
I think most people, it's scary to them, but they know if you go vegan, you're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, a lot of it more is just name calling from meat eaters, such as vegans are insane, or.
That's just Twitter, Patrick. That's just Twitter.
No, potentially there is maybe. I've seen quite a lot of meat eaters saying you're going to get disease, you're going to fracture your bones, or you need a tiny bit of animal flesh or secretions just to stay healthy. Or maybe I'm sort of changing my mind now a tiny bit.
Elle, what do you think?
There is a lot of health pressure put on vegans, like hip fractures, like diseases, like you will die, you will have nutrient deficiencies, like stuff like that. That is a thing that is prevalent.
So partially applies?
Yeah, go on, give it to them. Yeah, go on. There you
So in Islam, Jannah is heaven and Jahannam is hell. And both of those concepts, the way they are described in Islam, are a little bit childlike. So in case of hell, Jahannam, it's blazing fire and boiling water. And when you finished with boiling water, you go back to blazing fire. And the funniest thing about it for me is the tree of Zakkum, is the thing that you eat in hell. That's how you sustain yourself. And it's supposed to be poisonous or something. And this is the link that tells us all about Jahannam in Islam. And this is the illustration that they added there. These plants can kill. So I immediately thought about veganism. So that's it. Shunning of those who live, fear being rejected by friends and family. So this is phobia indoctrination.
Yeah, so there's no irrational fears, or there's no leader to have the authority to in this instance. So I'd say it doesn't apply to this one in this specific framing.
Yeah, but do we shun as a group those who leave?
We do, but it doesn't inculcate irrational fears about leaving. Like, there's no rational fear. Like, I don't think. Like if I think, oh, if I leave, like I think, oh, just like a few people are going to be mean about me. I don't think, oh, I'll suddenly be like punished, like in like a severe way, like in a cult-like way, or something like that. So in that framing, no, but it did apply before, but not in this way.
In this in phobia indoctrination.
No.
Yeah.
What's the difference between instilling fear and phobia indoctrination?
Like there's an irrational fear, like a phobia is like a very irrational fear usually, and it even says in irrational fear. So it's going to come and someone's going to come and get me or kill me, or like my pants will be pulled down in a public place or something like that.
So what's the difference between instilling fear of leaving in the last part that we saw and phobia indoctrination of
I think
leaving?
that has more serious consequences, I would say, and it causes more like irrational fear, whereas the general fear is just like fear of like, being rejected, or it's like a different like level to the fear, I would say.
So phobia is like when you're making a sweat as well, right? And this sort of
it's more severe, and there's more severe consequences in the thought. That's what I would think.
But also it's a matter of irrationality. So thinking like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example. If I step on I don't know, this pavement, the pavement is going to collapse, is an irrational fear. It's a phobia. So does the group of meat eating indoctrinate you into thinking that if you, I don't know, become vegan, then those people around you are gonna shun you?
Yeah, I don't think there's
reject you. Blah, blah,
I
blah.
don't think there's many vegans. Many meat eaters being kept up at night thinking, oh, what's going to happen if I become a vegan? Like,
Yeah.
it's more subtle. So I'll go for does not apply for this one.
All right. Awesome. Jehovah's Witnesses, literal disfellowship. So we talked about Jehovah's Witnesses thinking that shunning your loved ones, friends, family, whatever, is an act of love. A simple hello, someone says, to someone can be the first step that develops into a conversation and maybe even a friendship. Would we want to take that first step with a disfellowshipped person? Says like leader of this, one of the leaders of this cult. So um, we're continuing with phobia indoctrination. Never a legitimate reason to live. Those who live are weak, undisciplined, unspiritual, worldly, brainwashed by family or counselors, or seduced by money, sex, rock and roll.
Again, this could like partially apply, but then because of the section it's in about irrational fears and questioning a leader, their authority, I just can't see how it's applicable.
Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, I cannot see it being applicable for meat eaters.
I must say, I'm having a hard time helping you out figuring this out. So you're doing a good job. Amazing. I can't help. Sorry. I'm just completely disconnected from these questions, and I
Yeah.
had really a hard time finding examples for it as well. So in LDS is Mormonism. They have these exact sayings about members who lives. They were seduced by worldly things. They just wanted to sin. They are too weak to live in the gospel, or too weak to have the whatever the heck. It's changing though. Mormonism is a vast changing cult because they're realizing that they're just basically bleeding members. So yeah. Again, with phobia, threats of harm to ex-members and family.
I think that's considered generally unvegan to like threaten harm upon a human being. So I would say it doesn't really apply, and someone who's doing it, I would question their philosophy.
Yeah, Patrick.
I've not seen any cases of meat eaters,
Threatening,
threatening
yeah.
vegans who have left the meat eating organization or
Yeah.
community, whatever
Ah,
word you want to use for it.
yeah, guys, this is the last one. I haven't even noticed. We got to the last one. It's only fitting that I finish with Scientology. One of the policies in Scientology is called fair game. Fair game means that if an ex-member starts, or even somebody from a completely outside and never in person is starting attacking Scientology, meaning telling what's going on in Scientology, all the truth, nothing but the truth. Fair game means basically you can destroy their lives and you can go as far as needed, I think, barring killing them. But the examples are extreme. One person, she was writing about Scientology and all the terrible shit that was going on there. They almost framed her for bombing a place, like crazy shit, right? They lifted her fingerprints and planted them in somewhere, or not bombing him, but threatening to explode, like terror attack. Yeah, basically threatening to attack. A huge amount of money spent on infiltrating government buildings to plant evidence, and private investigators getting a huge amount of money just to follow people and show them, we're following you, we know where you live. There's one case of potentially dog being killed to threaten the family. So yeah,
Mm.
which yeah, that's it.
Jesus. We did it.
Guys, we did it. Oh my fucking god. So I have a little tally that I've made. If I can get to it. So 1 second, please. Um, eek. Sorry. There we go. So how did we do? Um,
The meat eating.
so yeah, meat eating is a little higher, but I think nowhere near being a cult. What does that look like to you guys? I think we've been unfair with veganism. It
Not
might be a
even
little bit higher.
10%. Not even.
Yeah, holy shit. Um, yeah. Any final words before we sign off forever?
I
How did you score the so for emotional, for example, did you, if it was partially applies, did you give
I gave it a 1.
for partially applies?
Yes. Can you see it all? No.
So you
So this is from today. Oh, I might have did a foo-foo with my calculations. I'm gonna recalculate it later.
Yeah, you'll be having another discussion with Christina, right?
Yeah. So yeah, guys, good idea. Next Wednesday, not Tuesday, Wednesday. 8 p.m. 8 p.m. my time, but GMT 6 p.m. I'm gonna meet with an actual ex-cult member, Christina Van Beek, who is of course an ex-Mormon, and we're gonna add another tally here just to see what a cult actually looks like. Because Stephen Hassan, he's been lazy and he never actually gave us a hard line where the cult starts and just regular groups ends. So we can't actually know until we compare ourselves to an actual cult. So that's what we're going to do next Wednesday.
could before we sign off, at the start of the stream, we changed the 1 point from what was it, thought control, and I was sort of I want to just double check that I properly understood your I think I didn't quite catch what you meant by what was it the last point 11, just instill a new map of reality.
Yeah.
So if we could quickly just before we sign off, just recap that
Sorry,
one.
what are you asking me to do?
So instill new map of reality. We changed from for meat eater that was from does not apply to fully applies.
And you asking me to do what? To go back to my
what did instill new map of reality mean again?
instill a reality that is not real, like wearing
Alternative.
goggles, like VR goggles.
So then we said fully applies because meat eaters, they're sort of they don't see the reality of what's on their plate, right?
No, I think we said partially applies.
Yeah, I think we said partially applies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
And I think it was partially in the first place.
it was
I
partially,
think.
but then yeah, vegan postmortem. She was like, I think I changed it to fully applies. But
Well, I think either way we can determine from looking at this that neither are actually like a cult. And when we have these accusations thrown at us about cults, there's actually a lot to a cult that we don't we don't see the classifications and understand cults as much as we probably think we do until you look at something like the bite model analysis and you see, oh my god, there is so much to this. They are so messed up that veganism is nothing like that. And it's funny to get the accusation levied by something that is more fitting but still wouldn't be one.
Patrick, any final thoughts?
I'll say that definitely now when someone comments veganism is a cult, I can we can all tell them, go through the bite model and compare it with ours. And if you have any good sort of argument for why veganism a cult, please share it, because based on the bite model, assuming Stefan Hassan did, I'm assuming, I don't know his work, but I'm assuming he knows organizational cults very well, so he's well documented it. So for someone to say veganism is a cult, they're going to have some information that we don't have here, because it's pretty clear that veganism is not a cult. And if anything, we have a little bit more on our side to call meat eating a cult. But I'm interested to see what the ex-cult what sort of rating they give. So just to compare where that fine line is in the scoring system.
Yeah. So you can join us on Wednesday when me and Christina are going to go through it. Patrick, you're welcome to join the stream as well if you want. Guys, first of all, I want to thank you for joining me on this endeavor. It was fun for me and excruciating at times and scary for sure. I want to make one last point. I've been kind of joking around about Scientology and saying it's a goofy cult and shit, but it's an incredibly dangerous cult, and it like most of the bite model applies to it. So actually, I'm going to join Elle in saying that even insinuating that both veganism or meat eating are a cult, when comparing them to actual dangerous, terrible cults, is kind of insulting. It's kind of inaccurate, and we can do without it. You know, let's I don't know, mend bridges on the fact that both of us are not in a cult.
That's an interesting point, yeah, because just all of this calling meat eating a cult could actually distract from the horrors of what happens in other cults, right?
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks for joining.